My name is Komborero Mutswegota, and I'll be representing the Millennials.
Hello, people. My name is Mrs. Mudanda. I'm here to represent Generation X in this conversation. I hope you enjoy.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dzamara, and I'm representing the Generation Millennial.
Like when we were growing up, there were no plates like in today's families where each child
is served in their own plate.
Wow. There would be a plate for the boys, a plate for the girls. It didn't matter whether we were eating okra or milk.
One love.
It was just one plate. My mother was tough. She was good at disciplining. In fact, the mothers of that time, they were serious on disciplining their children. It was not an issue yekuti ukaonekwa nemwana namai vemumwe munhu vaigokisiya. They would even beat you up.
Yes.
Iwe wotonyara kuchikotaura kumba kuti because waigona kurohwa futi wamborohwa.
Grew up in the era where the cell phone started emerging. We started with my landlines, as she was saying. If you have a girl who's calling home or you're calling at the girl's side, you would give signals.
You send your sister.
There are signals that you send so that you know that is the one. Then it quickly changed from landlines to now cell phones. My father was the first one to have a cell phone, so normally we would steal the cell phone and so when the bill comes, they're like, I did not make this call. So they would know if no one admits to the
mischief.
Exactly. They would beat everyone until one admits.
Can you tell us about your upbringing? Narrate the way the world was when you were being raised.
Mm-hmm. You had the question? Right.
I think the question is going to you first then
okay.
This one.
Okay, the way we were raised. Growing up was, I think it depends with the families, but as for me, my mother was a bit tough. It wasn't easy to be her child, honestly. So we grew up with 3 boys and 1 girl. So I understand why she was tough, because the first three children were boys. So nothing was easy. Nothing would come easy. Literally, we were raised as soldiers. We were raised as soldiers. I remember once the time that we used to wake up for, like for example, weekends. Normally on weekends you want to wake up late, but it wasn't as easy as that. So they would wake you up 6:30 or past 6, to start watering the garden, preparing the house. And she was one of a lady who didn't believe in having maids. So she was like, you guys, you are going to take care of everything. No maid here. You do the dishes, you do the sweeping, literally all the chores, house chores. We used to do all the chores. So we grew up cooking, doing all the house chores, sweeping, laundry. This is how we grew up. So normally when people see me cooking, they're shocked. You know how to cook. Or when they see me sweeping and doing all these things, they're shocked, like, Mr. Mutsi. So that's how we grew up. It wasn't as sweet as, in Shona kujaizwa, like what the Amatuke. But that's how we grew up in general. Yeah.
But do you think that was a bad thing?
When you're a child growing up, you think it's a bad thing. Because I remember one time I was not close to my mother at all. Until I was around 16, 17, when I was doing Form 4. That's when we started becoming close. But before that, cat and mouse. So growing up, you would think it's bad and but you start to appreciate it when you are grown, right? That okay, look, I think this has helped me in so many ways. Now I can actually be independent in terms of so many things, because I had to leave the house at one time, go stay on my own, and I could do everything. I didn't have to look for someone to help me to cook, do chores and all. So you'd appreciate it when you are growing, but before that, you wouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I'll say some of the things I relate with him because maybe we grew up in the same generation and our mothers were just doing the same thing to us. So I grew up in a family of 8. We are 8 in my family, so I'm the 8th one.
You were lucky.
The last one.
The last one was lucky. I mean,
not so lucky because I was raised by a single mother. So okay. I'm sure she was thinking that these people, if I do not rule them with an iron rod, they're going to be very mischievous. Definitely. And the community was going to judge her because she's a single parent. Okay. And having so many children, she had to be strict. But however, as a baby, I was just a baby.
And I think as a lady as well, you would see that as a lady, she had to be more strict. Yeah. Because they're girls and as a community, the community judges. Yes. So if you don't raise your kids well, especially the girl side, things might not go as planned, and the community, yeah.
So yes, but however, we were also raised in a Christian background. I think you forgot to mention that. A Christian background. I would say that was something you were never going to compromise on. Everyone was going to wake up in the morning. You take a bath, you go to church. Whether you didn't eat on time, but you were supposed to go to church. So this is the way we were raised. This is my upbringing, and I am grateful for it. And you were also talking about the community. The community raised me as well. You were like raised by a community, not only your mom. Because sometimes my mom would travel, she would go to sell so that we would get to be sustained. So when she left me, I wouldn't say I was alone. Because the lady from next door, she really wants to know what's happening in your house. She'd be like, where are you going this time? Go back. So I was raised by a community. So our generation as millennials, I would say our parents used to allow other people to, to guide us and tell us the right way and the right path. I think right now you see people when they have their own children and you try to rebuke them even in church, they'll be like, they will come and confront you because it's something that even the generation. Now when a teacher hits the child, the mother will go and say, why did you? So I think the generations are going let's be tougher and tougher. And so I would say that was my upbringing.
All right, like you were all girls or?
No, 4 boys and 4 girls.
All right, there's this thing that I've heard where people say that single mothers raise weak men.
Okay.
And I've heard it. No, society.
Society.
Yes, society levels.
They say the absence of a male figure takes away that experience to learn how to be. If they don't see a man, how a man is supposed to act, they never know how to act. Yeah. So what would you say to that as someone who was raised by a single mother? When you're looking at your brothers? Okay,
I'll say that my brothers were literally raised by my father. Okay, my father passed when I was 3 and I'm the last child. So we have a very big difference in the age gap. Our gapes are very different. I'll say my brother has a daughter who is almost my age. So yes, my brother was raised by my father. All my brothers, the 4 of them, because they are older. Saka, they had the time and they had a father figure. But I would say maybe to say weak men, maybe that's stereotyping. And now I would want to talk about other scenarios and other people that I have seen raising their children. They are parents, both a mother and a father.
Yeah.
They even cannot raise a child who is like brave and bold. Even they are there, both of them.
So it's not about...
Yes, it's not about being parented. Sometimes it's about a person's personality. Yes. It's not always about modeling. Yes, modeling from 1 to 5 years, you need a father and you need both parents. But there's an age that you reach and you're like, you know what, I can do this. It's in a person. They are very weak men raised by both parents. Yes.
Yeah, sure.
And then there are also strong men who are raised by single mothers.
Yeah.
So
And who are also orphans and they take care of their siblings. Yes.
They become fathers.
Exactly.
So it's a stereotype. We can't say
Yes.
one shoe,
It's not a fact.
one size fits all.
Exactly.
It depends on various other things.
They are factors. Like also the community and
Church.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The church. The church plays a very large role.
Because normally pastors become fathers
Exactly.
to those without fathers. So
Yeah.
church does play a big role, yeah.
Yeah.
So what about Gen Z? What do you have to say about
Gen X.
Gen X.
What do you have to say about
Okay. Me, I grew up in a family of 7 children, 4 boys and 3 girls. And we grew up in the rural areas. But my father was working in town. I think the status that we got when we were growing up, though we were in rural areas, was like that one of teachers. At the time, you know how teachers were being treated when they come to funerals. We didn't lack anything in my growing since my father was working. But my mother was there in the rural areas as the manager and looking after the children. She played a very big role, and it was a responsibility to make sure that all children were being brought up well. So we had our household chores as children, duties like girls would go for like cleaning the house, cooking, and while the boys would go to look after the cattle. My mother was also tough, and our parents didn't believe in employing maids. So we would do all our duties on our own.
Before you go to school.
Yeah.
Nice.
Then, like when we were growing up, there were no plates like in today's families where each child
is
has
served in
their
their
own
own
plate.
plate.
We used to eat food from one plate. Like
Wow.
there would be a plate for the boys, a plate for the girls. It didn't matter whether we were eating okra or milk.
One love.
It was just one plate.
But what was the reasoning behind that? Because I'm sure the plates were enough for each
Okay.
child. But what was the reasoning behind that?
Okay. When I was asking my grandmother at one time, she was telling me that it made people to unite, to become one.
Wow.
There was like singleness of heart in each. You would defend each other.
Wow.
You would be united. You would
Distribute
find an
freely.
enemy.
Yes.
Makabatana. You would not fight also on your own.
Exactly.
Like even when we were having tea, we used to have our maroon teapot. Yaibikwa tea yemunhu wese, and we would pour our tea from one teapot.
Yes.
So my grandmother was saying it was like symbolizing unity.
Wow.
You would not have the whole tea, finish the whole tea without leaving for others. You would think of others.
Sufficient.
So it encouraged unity among us. And we also would all go to the fields to plow. The only time that we would get new clothes was in August. After harvesting the maize from the fields, then we would go to Harare, and we would also go to agricultural show
Wow.
with the new clothes. That's the only time that we would also come to Harare, because like in the seasons of planting, we would be there in the fields. Taito Mukira, those times maybe we would go kumombe isusu vasikana, then the guys would go kumunda na amai. Kunorima and all that. So we would share responsibilities from a very young age. I think I started cooking at the age of 5.
Wow.
So the responsibility of washing clothes was on everyone. Everyone would wash their clothes like on a Friday, because in rural areas that time, quite nature in the Chishanu.
Okay. Cheesy.
Yeah, Chisi. Chishanu, Chisi, where we were not allowed to go in the fields. Then we would take our clothes, go to the river, play with other children, wash our clothes, and we'd come home. So we grow up in a community also where we would look after the old people.
Wow.
Fetching people for the old people who were in our communities, cleaning their houses, sometimes bring them food. I grew up in a time where when a visitor comes, like in a community, you would cook food, go and share with those visitors wherever kwavashikira ikoko. You would go with your relish, your sadza, your zhio, whatever you had, and share, give to the then they would share. So panyaya kuti munhu anomerwa when visitors come, that time it was rare. Even if they are going back, my mother would pack some things to give to those visitors to take back.
Someone else's visitor. Wow.
And there was also a culture when a visitor would visit us. Most of the time, I learned that from my father. You would see him, if he was able to afford those things, you would see him carrying a loaf of bread, a bottle of Fanta, or maheu, chigubu chema 2 liters, like kana muriwo. Maybe they are just coming for a day just to visit, to see people. Ndaiona vanhu vachibatsirana, vanhu vaikwanisa kuuya nezvinhu kumba kwavari kuuya kuzoona vanhu. I don't know whether it's still happening these days.
Nice.
Nekutoti kana ana tete vakauya from Harare, would go and wait for them mabuses, wotigira masweet. That's when we would eat those biscuits ainga ine karaundi pakati. Do you know them? I think so.
A choice.
Atainyenyena tosiya panenge pane sendi pa.
Oh.
Yeah. Saka my mother was tough. My rowa. She was good at disciplining. In fact, the mothers of that time, they were serious on disciplining their children. Pane chainzi trouble.
Yes.
Chairukwa chaiswa pamombe. That one, yeah. Mukangweta omsikanzwa mairowa. And it was also like there's katsumo kanonzi a child is raised by the whole village.
By the whole village, yes.
Saka it was not an issue yekuti ukaonekwa nemwana namai vemumwe munhu vaingokusiya. They would even beat you up.
Yes.
Iwe wotonyara kusvikotaura kumba kuti because waigona kurohwa futi wamborohwa. So we were raised by a community. Even if your mom was not there, even if your father, you would not even miss your father.
Exactly.
Because baba mkuru wangu would do exactly the duty of my father in disciplining me.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
That's how we grew up.
Wow.